Hey, what's up guys? Brad with Squared Away every day, and today we are going to be talking about should you buy the Tesla Model S Plaid or the Tesla Model S Long Range. And so I've had my Plaid for about 6 months now, enough to know if it's really worth the additional $36,000. And yes, it is a $36,000 premium to upgrade to the Tesla Model S Plaid. So we'll talk about, is it really worth it today, and what are you actually getting for that $36K? Now, if you like this kind of content, please go ahead and give me a like, give me a sub, and let's hop into it. All right, so everybody knows the Tesla Model S Plaid is the fastest production car on earth. And so up front, when we say, is the $36,000 worth it? Emotionally speaking, yes it is. $36,000 to own the fastest production car on earth is not only an awesome bragging right, but the feeling of that, knowing that when you're pushing or mashing that pedal down, that you're feeling the fastest production car on earth. You could get no faster in a production vehicle. That is a cool feeling, but that is an emotional feeling. So let's talk about, really from a practical standpoint, is that $36K worth the additional to actually upgrade from the S Long Range to the Plaid? Well, let's take a look and see what we actually get for that $36K. All right, so on paper, obviously the big one is going to be our acceleration is going to be increased dramatically going from the Plaid to the Long Range. So what we're looking at is a 0 to 60 of 3.1 seconds on the Model S Long Range, and I will say that still feels very fast. Now, when I first got into Tesla, the first car I bought was a Tesla Model 3 Performance. And I gotta tell you, going and driving that car for the first time blew my mind that it was so quick, so quiet, so easy to drive, and it was super fun. So from a pure fun factor, if you're not like used to fast cars or anything like that, 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds is going to be so fun for you to drive around, and it's definitely not going to disappoint. Now, if you upgrade to the Model S Plaid, we're looking at an upgrade to the 0 to 60 is 1.99 seconds. Now, that is with a rollout, but still, nonetheless, you can definitely tell the difference between the Plaid acceleration to just a standard long range. And how do I know? Well, because my Model 3 Performance had the same acceleration at that 0 to 60 at 3.1 seconds. And then you move on to the top speed, and the top speed really is going to be kind of a non-issue for most people. When I say most people, I'm probably talking like 98% of the population is never going to get these cars up to their top speed. Now, the top speed on the Model S Long Range is 155 miles per hour, more than adequate for your average daily driver vehicle. The base top speed on the Plaid, oh man, I'm trying to fight the wind here. We'll see if we can get through this video. The base top speed on the Plaid is actually 175 miles per hour, contrary to what people think. If you go on their website and you click on the 200 miles per hour, there's a little line underneath it. It'll tell you you have to pay for additional hardware to actually get up to that 200 miles per hour. So again, is this really an issue for the general public, 175 to 200 miles per hour? Not really. Nobody's really going to push it up to that. At least probably only 1 or 2% of car owners in that Plaid category will actually get it up to that. But nonetheless, it is a data point. And then we've got your quarter mile time. I'm not exactly sure what the quarter mile time is on the Model S Long Range, but we're probably pushing somewhere in the mid 11s or yeah, maybe low 11 seconds for a quarter mile. Now, in this particular vehicle, they claim that the lowest quarter mile time they've seen or recorded officially is 9.23 seconds. I think I've seen a couple times posted online that are slightly quicker than that, but I wasn't there to verify it. So we'll just go at 9.23 seconds for your quarter mile time. Me personally, I have gotten this car, I think I did a 9.45 quarter mile last fall, and it felt super fast, and it was really awesome. It's a bucket list that you never even knew should be on your bucket list. And then of course the Plaid is upgraded to 1,020 horsepower, and that is achieved by having a tri-motor or 3 motors on the vehicle versus the Long Range being at 2 motors. I'm not exactly sure what the horsepower is on the dual motor. I don't think it's really listed anywhere, but for the Plaid it's 1,020 horsepower, so that's that. Now, another thing that you're going to have with the Plaid, which will actually affect the grip or the acceleration times or your quarter mile times or anything like that, is going to be something called torque vectoring. It's a fancy term And Tesla's not the only company to do it, but torque vectoring essentially means when the car recognizes slip, it's going to put more power to another wheel that actually has a significant amount of traction. I hope I explained that okay, but essentially it's just a fancy traction control to where when you're accelerating, if you're losing traction, it'll take that power and put it to a wheel that actually has traction. I hope that makes sense. So is it like a huge deal breaker? I don't know. I had on my Model 3 Performance, it did not have torque vectoring, but it still pushed hard and it pulled hard when you were trying to accelerate. You can definitely feel the torque vectoring that happens on the Model S Plaid when you're accelerating. So I don't know, it's just another thing that you're getting with that $36,000. Now the real benefit, obviously as the name states, is going to be the range if you end up going with the Model S long range. Now if you go with the Model S long range, in my opinion, you really should be getting the 19-inch wheels that come on that car. And that's because you'll have an estimated range of 405 miles. That is really, really nice. Whereas on the Plaids, you're gonna have a range of 348 miles, which is actually quite significant. I will say the 50-mile difference, or a little over 50 miles, is gonna be substantial when you talk about your range on the road and your frequency of charge and all that good stuff. So that is certainly a plus for the Model S long range. Now, if you upgrade to the Arachnid wheels on the long range, you're looking at 375 miles versus 348 miles. Now that's a $5,500 upgrade, so it essentially puts us at just over $30,000 difference, and honestly, $30,000 is still a significant increase. So if you want to do the Arachnid wheels, you're still going to be saving a boatload of cash just going with the Arachnid wheels. You're just going to miss out on about 30-ish miles of range or so increase from the going from the long range to the Plaid. Now, an interesting thing and kind of a controversial thing with the Plaid is that it does not have upgraded brakes over the standard long range, which is really kind of an interesting feature there. I'm not entirely sure why they didn't do that, especially on a car that allegedly is someday going to be able to hit 200 miles per hour. That is really kind of an odd thing that they did. I don't know why they didn't kind of get that squared up before they actually launched the car, but nonetheless, the brakes are going to be exactly the same going from your long range to your Plaid. Same thing, you're going to have the same suspension on the cars. It's not going to have any sort of sport suspension or anything like that. You've got the same air suspension or adaptive air suspension on the Plaid as you do in the long range, so that's kind of a non-issue. One thing I'm not entirely sure of is the sport pedals. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the sport pedals are both on the Plaid and the long range, and that's just the aluminum alloy pedals with the little grippy rubbers on it. And so I think that's on both vehicles, but don't quote me on that one. And then finally, we have the carbon fiber spoiler that is going to be just unique to the Plaid. We have the carbon fiber, or not the carbon fiber, but we have the Plaid badge, which is going to be unique to the Plaid. And then we have the carbon fiber interior as well, and that is unique to the Plaid in itself. So we have a couple of different aesthetic features. I've heard that the Plaid is, I think it's like 1 to 2 inches wider than just the standard long range. I don't know if they're saying that compared to the long range, or if they're saying that compared to the old Model S. I took it originally is that it was the old Model S, it was 1 to 2 inches wider, but now I've heard that it's actually just 1 to 2 inches wider than, yes, the old S, but also the Model S long range. Personally speaking, you're not going to be able to tell much of a difference from the long range, the refresh model long range, to the Plaid in general, so it's kind of a non-issue. Okay, now before I actually give you my opinion on is it worth it to get the Plaid versus the long range, let's just have like two considerations with this. Now, one, if you get the Plaid, your insurance is going to be higher than the Model S long range, and your registration costs are going to be higher because, well, the car is more expensive. And then in addition to that, if you're looking at getting your car sooner than later from Tesla, not from a third party, the wait time is significantly different if you want to get the Plaid versus the long range. Now, if you get the Plaid, you're going to be saving about a 4 to 6 month wait on your lead time versus if you get the long range. So if you want a car quicker, go ahead and get the Plaid. It's going to save you about 4 to 6 months on that actual lead time. Now, in closing, is it worth the $36,000 upgrade to get the Plaid versus the Model S long range? Emotionally speaking, yes. Yes, it is, because like I said in the beginning of the video, you get that feeling that you know nobody else is feeling any faster speed than you on the ground in a vehicle with a modern day production car, and that is just a cool feeling. When you're mashing that pedal down, you just know you're just going as fast as you can possibly go, as of 2022 anyway, and that's just a cool emotional feeling. Not only that, it's the fastest production car on earth, and so that's just a cool bragging right in itself. So emotionally speaking, yes, it's worth that $36,000. Now let's talk about real world and just kind of like being a rational human being. Is it worth $36,000 to upgrade? No, it's not. And I only say that because realistically speaking, if you've got a family or you're driving people around, you are gonna look like an a-hole if you're just mashing the pedal down all the time. And so realistically speaking, most people aren't just like hammering around town all the time. Now I do, but I don't really drive with my family in the car that often because, well, we've got different cars to use. So for me, it's worth it. But for the average person, 3.1 second 0 to 60 time is still gonna feel super, super fast. And that's because it is really fast. And so 36K and you're pretty much getting the same brakes, you're getting the same ride quality, same suspension, but you're losing out on really just the acceleration and just a couple of basic aesthetic features. That's kind of a non-issue to me. And so me personally, it was worth it from an emotional standpoint and just who I am. But if you're a rational person and you actually are fiscally responsible, I would recommend that you just go ahead and buy the Model S long range. That's pretty much my take on it, guys. If you like this kind of video, please go ahead and give me a like, give me a sub, and we'll see you in the next one.